Down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, let me go here. Fantastic. Awesome. So, hello, everyone. This is Charity Smith, Ms. Mogul. Welcome to the MoguLife Studios here in Houston, Texas, where I am hosting the one and the only Dr. Kara Scott Dentley. What a pleasure, what a treasure to have this conversation with you this morning. For all of you who do not know, let me give you a little bit of background about this powerhouse of a woman. Dr. Kara Scott Dentley is a scientist by trade. This woman is degreed, and we'll get into her background because it's going to be important in her story, and I'll let her share that with you. But she's a scientist, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a 7-figure earner. She understands how to scale and leverage in business. You are certainly in for a treat this morning. And so without further ado, I'm going to back up and now introduce one more time Dr. Kara Scott Dentley. Welcome this morning to PowerTalk.
Thank you so much, Charity, Miss Mogul. It is
Yes.
a pleasure to be here. It's amazing. It's just a great day. It's a great day to be alive.
It
You
is,
know,
isn't it?
one of the things that growing up, they used to have the prayer, Lord, I thank you for waking me up this morning and clothing me in my right mind.
So you grew
And
up where I did.
where I am today.
Yeah, you woke up where I did. Yes.
Hey, that's
Yes.
where I was today. Like I literally woke up with that in my spirit. So
That's
it's
wonderful.
good to be here. Thank you so much.
So perspective is everything. And that goes right into, and that's why I chose you to be the guest speaker on this topic. So much of what you do, I have the pleasure now of working with you and seeing your work ethic and your mentality. The word energy now is thrown around a lot. I think it's just who we are, right?
Right.
But your mindset and your perspective on business. How do you now, because times are challenging, we're not going to create a kumbaya scenario, right? That there aren't some challenges in the market right now. Certainly we have challenges, but mindset is everything. How do you mentally condition every day to do what you do?
Everything is you get back what you put out. You get back how you set a scenario to be.
Mhm.
Right now we're up against a pandemic, and it's quite interesting because many times people feel like when things happen, oh, it's what's happening to just me. I'm in my bubble. I'm in a silo. It's just me. But right now we're facing something that's happening to everybody. So we're sharing
Mhm.
this moment with people all over the world.
Yes.
And here we are. And you hit the nail on the head. The mindset. It's not so much of what happens, but how do you perceive and process what is happening? Part of what we get to do as humans is we get to choose. We get to
That's
decide.
good. That's good. That's good. So for everyone who's taking notes, I always say, Kara, get your laptop and your latte because this really is school for leaders, right? This is
It
school
is.
for leaders. And so you bring up the point of us being in a pandemic. I want you to now go back and talk to us about how the scientist now matriculates into what you're doing now as a 7-figure earner and entrepreneur. And we're going to tie that together because this is what I know. Mindset had to guide the matriculation of that decision. I know
Mhm.
your story about you wanting bigger and better and more and scaling and using all of those gifts that you have. But tell us about your beginnings and how you developed this mindset. So you started out as a scientist, and now what was that journey to 7-figure entrepreneur? What was the mindset that was necessary? Go into that part as well to matriculate through that because you could have rested on your laurels and said, hey, I'm a scientist. I'm
Right.
doing well, and when people hear your story, like she was what? She was who?
Right.
But that's just the beginning of the story. Tell us about it.
That was just the beginning. Interesting. I knew that I was not going to stay in that field.
Which
And
one?
And as well, I dealt with nuclear power plants
So,
and with
okay,
and security
come
and going
on.
in. I knew
Yeah.
like this was just part of the process. This was just a piece of the puzzle. I knew
How
that I
can you
would
become a nuclear scientist and say, oh, this is just the beginning?
because I understood. I like the process of science. I like the unfolding. I like the guesswork of what may happen, and if you start with this, you could build on top of it and make it
So
this.
you're curious.
Yeah, just curious.
Intellectually curious. I love that.
What if? What if?
Mhm.
And so starting there, I was excited about it, and I'm still excited about science. But I understood that as long as I was there and I had a ceiling on my income and I did not have my time, because I ran up against time.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that we don't talk enough about. I needed more time so that I could build myself further than where I was with where I was. I felt
Mhm.
like, okay, I was good enough here with what I learned, with what I read. And I was up against time. And what I mean by that is I was waking up early, for the moms and dads out there. I was taking my son to daycare and then would have to be at work and doing what somebody else wanted me to do for the next 8 hours. And then I would have to, commute back home, get my son. And I did not have time to grow. So I was using up a lot of time in my day that I understood that I would not get back. And I'm like, I can't read. I don't have time to really work out the way that I want to. I was always just kind of cutting corners. Maybe I'll get to read tomorrow, and tomorrow never came. And I'm like, this is not working for me, because I know for me to go to the next level, I need to read more. I need to really deep dive into personal development. Most of the time you go to seminars, they're doing a day.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't even have time to do that. I'm like, when do I grow? And that's really what it came down to.
I
Because I
love
knew
it.
that in order for me to go to the next level, I had to grow. It was on me.
Okay. So that's a pivotal point that
Yeah,
I really want listeners to hear you say. Success didn't define you, you defined success. That's
absolutely.
what I heard you say. Because someone would have said, she's a nuclear scientist. She's in a field that not very many women of color, women are not really saturated in STEM areas anyway. So why not just stay there and fit that mold and trail that blaze? But what I heard you say is that you wanted another definition of success. And so much of that was leveraging time with your career. And it
Right.
seems like to me you had a higher value on your time, right? And then the career was important, but the time part was really important. And you said something else, Carrie. You said that I wanted to develop myself. And so talk to us now about the mindset. So what was the aha moment for you? Because you had to have already had a success paradigm, right? To go into this field. Talk to us about what your personal success paradigm is, but what was the light switch for you? What was the aha moment? What was the day when you said, enough is enough? I'm taking the reins of this and I'm going in another direction.
I think it was it wasn't just one day. It wasn't just one
Okay.
turn of the switch. It was the build up of it. And after a while, you hear people say sometimes you get sick and tired of just being sick and tired,
Got you. I got
right?
you. I got
And it was one time too many where I felt like, I wanted to be able to check the box of reading that
you.
book. I wanted to be able to check the box of saying I got in 30 minutes of workout today. I wanted to be able to check the box of saying I was able to, go to school with my son when they had days for, parental involvement. I wanted to be able to check the box. This all involved my time.
Mhm.
And so, I was listening to Jim Rohn. I love Jim
Yes.
Rohn. And he says, to make a lot of money, you have to serve a lot of people. So, and I understood in order for me to serve a lot of people, I had to become somebody different, because I was at that point only serving the government.
Mhm.
I was only serving a handful. So I had what I needed to serve that handful. So for me to elevate, I needed to become more so that I could serve more. And that's when it really hit me. I'm like, when do I get this developmental part going? Like, there's always more. Even when you think that you have reached your pinnacle, when you feel like, oh, I read books, I'm good. I could read another book. I could read a book, the same book another time and be like, wow, I didn't see that the first time because I'm in a different space. So I needed that.
Mm-hmm.
I needed that. And when you think about people who are just really successful, whatever that means for you, because everybody's definition is different as it should be. When you see people that you deem successful, what are the behaviors? What are the characteristics? I know you look at people like Oprah Winfrey, and you have, Elon Musk, and you have Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, you throw these names out there. They read a lot, meaning they're always feeding their brain. Even though people feel like you made it. Why are you still reading? Like you are a success. They're still reading.
So you bring up something interesting that I really want to delve into. Success is a science.
Yes.
Success is a science. It's not haphazard. Just like failure is predictable, success is predictable when you follow the patterns, when you follow the formulas of success. Success happens. I love reading, and you brought up some wonderful people. I love reading Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. He's one of my soul food people. He feeds my intellect and my soul, right? And he talks about how success begins in the mind but ends in the purse. And then he also talks about something you brought up about reading and feeding the mind. There is a science to what millionaires do, or multimillionaires, or let's just say high level earners, high performance people do. One is reading at least 5 hours a week. Did you see anything in there about television? There's little to no consumption of television. It's constantly reading and feeding the imagination. One, you brought up working out. For all of you who may be taking notes now or doing the replay, here is the science. So it's feeding the mind, and then it's feeding the body. You talked about needing to feed literally the body. And here is what I know, Kara. The mind works a lot like the body, right? You have to feed the mind, feed the body, the right stuff. If you put it in, I think I heard you say that at the beginning. When you put in the right stuff, you get the right output. It's called input and output. Input and output. So when you put in the right information comes out. So same thing with the mind and the body. Then it's exercise. We work out our bodies because we want to remain healthy. Workout for the mind is imagination and creativity. It's creating systems, and it's creating new realities for us. And you brought up Elon Musk. Love him because he thinks completely outside of what our norms are. And he challenges us to use this thing we call a brain. That's a science as well. Talk to us about now the science of success, because you've mastered that. Here is what I know, Kara. People want to think that sales it's kind of that nature versus nurture. Do I have to be charismatic? Do I have to be born with it? Some of that is personality, but is this not a skill that we can learn? Is sales a skill? And how do we turn our mindset on to master that skill? Talk to us about that.
The beautiful thing is we attract who we are.
Write that down if you're taking notes now or doing the replay. Write that down. Yes.
We attract who we are. I might need to go into another room. We'll see if it gets too loud. Hi.
We're just rolling. We're good. Come
on. So we attract who we are. And it's interesting that you bring this up, because we are actually diving into this book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mandino.
Yes.
This one but many people, I remember when I first put my hands on it. One of my coworkers, it's just so interesting. She had left. She had gone to another agency, and there were books, and I was like, "You left some books." She was like, "Oh, I don't need them. You can have them." And that happened to be one of the books. And I was like, I kind of looked at it. You know how those brown pages back in the day, and I was like, this is a classic.
Yeah.
So I read about it, and so many people had so many rave reviews, and it was like, everyone needs to read this. And I was like, let me check this out. Let me read this book. And I started reading it, and I couldn't put it down. It had very little to do with sales per se, but more so of who you are as a person. And this is what I find with so many people in sales. There are so many just nuggets that you can pull out of this reading about just what it takes. And sometimes we think it's excuse me, you know how this is. Sometimes we think that it's the skills, is what someone, teach me what I need to know. Just tell me everything I need to know, put into me. And really the very word education itself is a Latin word, and it means to pull out. And so that was the premise of this book. So the main thing is what's in you that God has already put in you that needs to be brought out. The beautiful thing is you get that on so many levels, especially when you're in sales, because you get to interact with so many people that you get to find out who you are in different situations, and in communicating and corresponding and relating and getting over letdowns. All of this, you get to see who you are in that process. And all of that has very little to do with sales. I've purchased things from people that I'm just like, because of who you are, I'm going to support you in this business. And I would say to a person that's in sales, think about a person that you would support. Now, granted, if the product works, you like the product, who would you support? Become that.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And I'm so glad we're dispelling the myth that it can't be done by anybody. The older I get and the more I work my businesses, the more I find out so much of what you're saying is true, Kara. Our sales success really is dependent upon what we radiate to people. People don't buy necessarily the product. They buy the experience with you. So for all of you who are taking notes, write that down. People buy, the product is important, but people are agreeing with you in the sales process. That's really what sales is. It's getting people to go on a journey with you to come to an expected end. The expected end, buy my service, buy my product, but they're buying into their experience with you. And so much of our sales success comes from how successful we are internally as a person, as a leader. I had the opportunity yesterday to prove your statement true before you even knew it was going to be true. I had the opportunity to be on the phone with my team, right? And I was talking to them about goals and about elevation. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But so little of it was talking about the product. It was a time of excavating greatness in them. They had to buy into their own greatness in order for these big, lofty goals that they told me they wanted to achieve to be true. That's something else we know with sales, right? So much of that end goals achievement is determined by what you think about it.
That's right.
Here is what I'm saying. You can say, I want to be a 7-figure earner, 8-figure earner, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. But so much of the success of that is determined by how you think about you doing that.
Right.
Do you see yourself doing that? Do you have a mental picture of that? And so what you're saying is so true. It's about developing yourself from the inside out, developing the person. So when we get into the nature versus nurture conversation, it's more so, I think, nurture and nature. You got to nurture this, right? You got to read. You have to be able to invest in personal development. I think that's what I'm hearing you say. You have to be developed as a person, and the sales come.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing, because and we actually just did the book today. We didn't finish the whole book. We're in the middle of the book. And the question came up with being where I am. Have I ever, felt like giving up? And I've been asked that question so many times, even when I would go into the school system and speak to the kids. I mean, they just wanted to know, these were 8th graders. Have you ever felt like quitting? I think the main thing is that first of all, the answer is yes, most people do. And I feel like everyone has what I call a wall, and everybody's wall is different. Sometimes it's emotion, sometimes it's, carrying along that 8-year-old kid that felt like you weren't good enough. Sometimes it's a relationship. The minute your relationship goes south, you're like, oh, I need to take a break. I can't take it. I can't move on. It may be a health challenge. Everyone has a wall. And you want to surround yourself, even if, personal development comes in many forms. It could be via reading books. It could be listening to podcasts. It could be, listening to Charity. Of course, she's Miss Mogul. It could be it's surrounding yourself, especially with people who are leaders and have those success principles. Because no matter what it is you do, you will be challenged. Those walls will come. Somebody might say, oh yeah, health challenges come to me and I just blow straight through them. And somebody else, they're like, how do you do that? Because that's the thing that sets them back. For some people, they're like, I'm getting put out of my house. I have to give up everything. I have to come back to my business later. But for some people, that is the push that they need. That is the drive. What is it? The question should be, what is it that kept you going? Because when everything is peachy and good, and the sun is shining, it's easy to keep going. Well, what do you do? And this is what people need to ask themselves, because that's when personal development takes over. And what you have studied, what you have read, when the pressure comes on, that's what comes out. If you've been putting a lot of just crap in there, and a lot of people going off on people, you're gonna find yourself feeling like you got to keep it real. And the minute somebody tell you no, you're ready to read them. And that is not what it is about. Mm-hmm. I've had people that say stuff that I'm like, And you've heard people say, she better be lucky I'm not back in the day, because you don't have to say that.
That is so beneath us.
Right. That's not even a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
Because most of the time when people lash out, they're yearning for something. And part of the experience as well, when someone does something that's off kilter, that you just kind of feel like, that was interesting. Let me love this person. Let me show them, because maybe that's what they haven't had. And like you pointed out, it's going to be the experience that will bring them back, and they will never forget you. There's a saying that says, I might forget something that you said. I may even forget something that you've done, but I would never forget how you made me feel. That is the sales process.
That's good.
That's it.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So tell us, though, how. So much of our sales success is about the bounce back.
The bounce back.
The bounce back. So much of our sales success, particularly for women, is about the bounce back, because many of us may be in sales in an area that may be male dominated. Real estate is one, right? Mm-hmm. Male dominated arena. Or let's say it's pharmaceutical sales, or maybe multi-level marketing. We're going to get into that. Whatever it is, what is the secret to the bounce back?
The whole secret to the bounce back, it goes back to that personal development. That in that moment, whatever that moment is, that you would typically do this, in that moment, when you choose to envision that as a lesson, as this is my moment to show that I've been praying to be stronger. I've been praying to elevate. I've been praying to go higher. In that moment, when you are tested again on the thing that you've been tested on before and you failed, in that moment when you say, I'm not even gonna look at it like that. I'm gonna look at this as what I needed as a stepping stone to go to the next level. I'm gonna do it with pride. I'm gonna do it with a smile on my face. I'm gonna take it with joy. I'm gonna learn the lesson in it, and I'm going to elevate because of it. The minute you choose, and that's every step of the way, because we're always, your test might be different than mine, but it's how we choose to go through that test to wind up on the other side. That very few people, without that personal development, most people will succumb and just kind of fall victim again to the thing that happens. And the question becomes, why does this keep happening to me? First of all, your language is lazy. It keeps happening to you because you keep saying it keeps happening to you. So you're attracted to it. And so when you shift that and say, oh no, this will no longer happen to me. I will be victorious. I am victorious. Not even will be, I am victorious in this thing. And you would be surprised at how it just literally just kind of falls by the wayside. It's not so much that the thing will stop, it's how you process it, and you will just pass through it. It's how you process it. Because things happen. We can't control what the government does. Matter of fact, we can't control what anything outside of us does. We can't. But what do you do with it?
Mhm.
What do you
So
do?
much of this is processing. I said something along the same line. It's so funny how we were not in the same place, but having very similar conversations. I was on a platform with Bill Walsh talking about
He's a,
mindset.
oh God. Bill
Our
Walsh.
master, our master. But I brought up something and said it a little bit different way, but it's exactly what you're saying, Kara. It's about how fast do we process through it. Leaders in this next phase, the next tier of leaders, are going to be those people who can process information and bounce back quickly. It's those people who don't take it personally and move on. It's becoming a conduit of it, right? Literally diffusing the information, taking it, and then moving on to the next thing. And it's not personal.
It's
Talk
never
to us
personal.
about, because never personal. You have a different mindset than many people. For you to see science and now see TLC, who, by the way, who's the sponsor of today's show, Total Life Changes,
Yeah.
is of, I don't know if people would see the connection in the two worlds, but I think success paradigms is what connects the two worlds. You knew you would be successful as a scientist, and now you just changed it and said, hey, want to go and take my life in a different direction. Total Life Changes is here. Would you please talk to us about how your success philosophy has led you to Total Life Changes, and what success tools do you employ on a daily basis to remain successful in business?
You know, I like tools. I like systems. I like
Come
all
on,
of
scientists, this is your world.
algorithms. That's actually what my master's was in. My thesis was in algorithm development, your
That
behavior.
sounds fun. That
Believe it or
sounds
not,
fun.
it was seeing clusters of behavior and create
Behavior.
an algorithm that would create a map that will automatically dictate where these clusters would be based on what had already previously happened. So dictation of
So
patterns.
are you saying that outcomes are predictable?
Look,
Is that what
absolutely
you're saying? That outcomes are predictable? So talk to us about predictable outcomes.
predictable outcomes.
With
You know the saying. Some people may have heard it, some people may not have. But in order to get a different outcome, a different result, you have to do something different. There was a
absolutely.
meme that I had that it said, "Who wants change?" The guy standing from the podium, in front of the podium, and everybody's raising their hand. Me, we want change. And then he added one more word in that. Who wants to change? All hands down. Now that's where the game changes, because you have to understand that to get a different outcome, you have to not so much of do something different, you have to be somebody different. Because naturally, when you are someone different, you do things differently. Most people don't want that shift. They feel like, you hear people say it all the time, this is just who I am. Okay, so you want something different, but you want to tout, this is just who I am. James said something one day, and I thought that was the most profound thing. Look, he said a lot of profound things, but
He's
he
a smart
said
man.
either change who you are or change what you want.
That's good.
Think
That's
about
good.
it.
That's good.
You want this outcome? You either gonna change this outcome that you want. Oh, I want to, because most people are mimicking and watching and looking at what somebody else is doing and feel like, oh wow, I want that, but you don't see the hard work that went into it. You don't see the seeds that were sown prior to. So before you start looking at exactly, oh, I want this, and we have a lot of things that, I think that that's where many times personal development, if it's not done properly, you could mislead a person and they can go down this tunnel of depression, because artificial highs have real lows, right, James? And they have real valleys. And so you want to make sure that in that process that you are very real with the person. One of the things that was said in this book, in The Greatest Salesman, and if you don't mind, I just want to point this out real quick for the people that are in sales. This is in chapter 3 for a person that gets this book. He says, so this guy was saying, I want to be the greatest salesman. Somebody out there saying, I want to be the greatest salesman. I want to be a top money earner. I want to be. And this guy was the greatest salesman at that time. And he told him, he sat silent for a minute. And then the old man said, first, you must prove to me, and more important to yourself, that you can endure the life of a salesman or woman. For it is not an easy lot you have chosen. Truly, many times you have heard me say the words that rewards are great. You have heard me say that the rewards are great if one succeeds, but the rewards are great only because so few succeed. Many succumb to despair and fail without realizing that they already possess all the tools needed to acquire great wealth. Many others face each obstacle in their path with fear and doubt and consider them as enemies, when in truth, these obstructions are friends and helpers. Obstacles are necessary for success because in selling, as in all careers of importance, victory comes only after many struggles and countless defeats. Victory comes only after many struggles and countless defeats. Yet each struggle, each defeat sharpens your skills and strengths and your courage and your endurance, your ability and your confidence, and thus each obstacle is a comrade in arms, forcing you to become better or quit. Each rebuff is an opportunity to move forward. If you turn away from them, if you avoid them, you will be throwing away your future. That part.
Wow. That is so profound. So much of our success is a decision.
Every step of it.
Okay. Yeah, let's be more at bullseye. Bullseye. Our success is a decision. We go back to mindset and predetermining an outcome. And then the second step you talked about was self-development, right? First one was we have a determined outcome. Then you talked about self-development, really becoming the person we want to be to achieve this success. You said a quote, and for everyone who's taking notes, write this down. In order to have something different, you have to become somebody different, or as your husband said, change who you are, change what you want, right?
That's it.
So it's about having a predetermined outcome. Then it's about becoming the person that you want to be to achieve that. And then you said something else. It's about processing obstacles quickly, right? Getting through. Oh my gosh, I think I lost you. Okay, we lost Dr. Dentley. Not sure what happened there. Oh, there we go. We'll add her back in there.
Yes.
Dr. Dentley.
Yes.
Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. So we were just talking about that's okay. We're just talking about the process, and I'm going to bring you back because I really want to delve into this more deeply. There's more there that you have to share. So we were talking about one, having a predetermined outcome at the top of the show. You talked about that. Then you talked about your personal success paradigms. You decided you wanted something differently, and so you pursued the path. You took ownership, and then you pursued the path. The third step you talked about was personal development, feeding the mind and the body, getting alignment. You'll hear me use that word a lot. Alignment, mind, soul, body, and spirit. One of the reasons why I connected with TLC, had the mind, had the spirit, but that body alignment was the last component to make me fully engage in my own success. So important. So you talked about alignment, and then you talked about becoming the person that you want to be, becoming that person. The evolution of the leader is really what you talked about, really evolving into that person. And then finally, you ended with, it's a decision. All of this happens, but you have to have a decision. You have to decide to be successful, to show up every day, to master the mundane, to master the systems, to educate yourself, to excavate greatness from the inside out. You do this every single day. Leaders do this every single day. So for those who are looking for a success paradigm. Give us your takeaways. If you had to advise America's leaders, and by the way, you're doing it now, and soon this will be around the world. All of these shows literally go around the world. Educate the listener, Kara, Dr. Dentley. Give us some tools, some strategies to take away with, to develop our own success paradigms and success mindsets.
Sometimes people want to chase success. You don't chase success. You become success.
If I had a mic, I'd drop it. Just
you become.
Become it. I love that.
If you chase success, it'll become elusive. You have to, you have to, the Bible says, write the vision, make it plain.
Habakkuk, that's on my board, by the way. It's funny. That's on my board right here. Right? Yes, ma'am. Come on. Okay, that was my
That's right. James came and said, you attract success. That's right.
Oh, hey, Dr. Dentley. Yeah, absolutely. You do.
He came up with. He's a teacher. He teaches in his sleep. I promise you.
I believe you. I believe you.
In his sleep. One day he was like, was I just training? I'm like, you absolutely weren't. It was good. But you attract success. Absolutely. You attract success. And I can remember, and sometimes you have to, and it's okay. This is what people need to understand, especially people who are saying, I'm doing something new, I'm starting out. We undermine, and I know how important this is. We undermine those times where you have to down throttle and you have to build back up. It's almost like a slingshot where you have to pull it back, and the further back you pull it so that it can have that trajectory to go further into the future. Sometimes you just have to down throttle. You don't have to always be on. And I know that, like, you have your break. You have your days that you take where I have to feed my brain. And it's underestimated. Some people call it meditation. Before, many times I move in the morning, I just kind of lay there. I just have to, just kind of recalibrate myself. When you have to just take a day, and it's interesting because a lot of times people, that's a step that they overlook, even in exercise. And I always want to use examples that people can relate to. Even in exercise, they say, if you work out your legs today, give your legs a break tomorrow. If you work out your arms today, we'll give your arms a break the next day. Like, you have to, so that everything can rebuild. I know, like, when I wake up in the morning, one of the things that I like to do is just go take a walk. I know that in that walk, there's creativity that's happening. When I was studying and doing all of this physics and all of this, some of my greatest epiphanies came when I was just doing something real random. I wasn't staring down the book. I wasn't sitting in the class. I would take my notes, go over them in the evening, and then I would take a walk and go to the gym and do something. And then all of a sudden I'm like, that's it. And people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, it was something that would just turn on. And to me, that's part of the process too. That's part of the surrender. See, I know that it takes focused energy to make certain things happen. And when I go. But when it's time to take a break, I take a break. And here's the part that people have to become okay in those moments and not feel like I'm not doing enough. I have a friend right now. She said, anxiety is taking over. Oh my God, I just feel like I can't take a break because I have to be the one to do what needs to be done. It won't be done right. And she's like, oh, by the way, did I tell you that my hip hurt, my leg hurt? I said, yeah, you are taking on everything physically because you won't take a break. You won't take a break. And she's like, that's so right.
So I'm hearing you say that success has a spiritual component to it as well.
Oh, absolutely.
The recalibration. It goes back to something, and we're running out of time. I figured we would, but it goes back to something we talked about at the top of the show about having alignment in mind, body, and spirit, having that agreement, right? And then developing into the person you want to be. that whole becoming success, not pursuing it, but literally becoming it. What does success look like with my mind, with my body, with my spirit, with my sales, with my outcome? What does it look like for me? It's such a personal thing. Here's another thing I hope that listeners take away from your show today is that success is not cookie cutter. It's not cookie cutter, but there are certain elements there that dictate success. Go back to personal development. It goes back to reading and educating yourself. It goes back to taking care of your mind and body, reading at least 5 hours a week, and then aligning. You said something about focused energy. That's another one. Love that. There is a target. And when you blast off, when you hit that target, go back and recalibrate. Another word I love to use, because it's not about resetting. Reset means you go back to zero. Right. Recalibrate means you go back to the original greatness of a thing. Different mindset. So It's not about reset. It's about recalibrate, going back to the original before it was even used, right? It goes back to the first point of excellence. That's really what recalibration is. We can talk all day about recalibration. That's a word I love to use. But then it's about processing the no's and processing rejection, letting it move through you and using it as a learning opportunity is what I heard you say.
Most of the time people go through phases and what they're rejecting is not you. People have thrown away relationships and I can't believe this person, the one person I thought would have really. Look, my success is not predicated on any one person telling me yes. It's not. I don't have the names that are in these positions that God says, you are assigned to certain people. Because if that's the case, the minute they go left, I go left. And I lose my own cool. But when you understand that the promise has been given to you of a certain thing, and everybody's promise is different. Before, even in the Bible, God say, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. That part is enough to make you feel like, look, I just met you. So if a person leave, I just met you. Maybe our time is over. And what people need to stop doing is taking it personal and wanting to blast a person and make it personal vendetta. And, I'm going to use the rest of my life. Look, that person has served their time and be okay with that. People that I felt back in the day may have done me wrong. I could look at you now without any emotion, without any bitter feeling. Instead of getting bitter, I got better.
That goes back to personal development and choice.
Too. Because where do you get that ideal from if you're not hearing that? If you grow up around people that feel like, oh, this person did you wrong and now you're ready to snap, if that's all you know and you haven't changed that paradigm, you will be 60 years old running around here still snapping on people like you 18 because you did not grow. Mm-hmm. It's not enough to say, this is how I was raised. Okay. You still counting on how you were raised? I feel like the way that I was raised was what my parents knew. And the way everything is always changing. Change is the only thing that's constant. My ceiling, as far as I go, I expect that to be my son's floor. So I want to deposit and pour into him all of the things that I learned from my mistakes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we want to expose these kids to the mistake and not so much the lesson. And then we have them growing up being bitter, but we never showed them, what did you learn from it?
Right.
You become better as a result of it.
Exactly.
And then they carry on just the stuff. They walking around, they hold just as much stuff. They have their stuff and you dump your stuff on top of them.
Okay. Babies have baggage.
Babies with baggage.
Babies with baggage.
So personal development is key. Absolutely.
Dr. Dentley, in closing, so there's so much that you have to give. We didn't get a chance to talk about all that I wanted to talk about today with TLC, but I want people to get an idea of what you do and how you serve many. Remember, that goes back to, I forgot who the quote was from, but success is in serving many. You do that every day with TLC. You also do it, though, with leadership development.
Right.
You do it with mentoring. How can people contact you and get to know you better, to understand what you do and how you serve the masses. How can people connect with you is the first question. And then secondly, we always have a giveaway on this show. And I think you kind of gave us a spoiler alert there at the middle part of the show, but tell us what your gift is today and why it's so important. So one, how do people connect with you? What do you have going on? How do people connect with your community? Secondly, what's your gift today and why is it so important?
A person, if they want to connect with me, there are so many different platforms. A person can email me at Kara, K-A-R-A, at inspired, the number 2, speak.com. Or they can also find me on social media channels. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. They can send me an inbox. I'm also Googleable, if that's a word. Googleable.
Google me.
Google me. So they can reach me there. And I actually have 2 gifts that I would like to
wow, okay.
Definitely. And it could be both to the same person or 2 different people.
Okay.
One of the books that I really love, I've talked about Mandino, absolutely, hands down, the greatest salesman in the world. I think everyone should read that, especially if you feel like, where do I go from here? You have midlife crisis. What do I do? I'm confused, right? That's a good book to start with. Just kind of down throttle and read. The next book would definitely be my husband's book by Dr. James Dentley, The 5 Frequencies of High Performance. And, it talks about just these different things that we have in our lives, as far as like these different tiers or pillars, as you may say, relationships, finances, so many different things, health, all of this plays a part. You talked about mind, body, spirit, it's all one. And the more you read, this will actually this will be who you would become, especially under pressure. This is what will come out because, we're all diamonds, right? And what comes out is what is put in, and what, when you start to squeeze on it, that's what comes out. So with that being said, those would be definitely my 2 gifts. And, I would love to share more about TLC because I feel like everybody needs to have TLC. They either need to be in or some kind of way. And we have different ways that people can participate and be a part of TLC. And it's total life changes. And every day, we're always changing. And that's what TLC is. Sometimes people don't know what they're looking for and they find it right there in TLC. And they're like, I didn't know that this was what TLC was about, but I'm glad that I learned.
I can certainly attest to that, right? I'm a real estate investor, did not see the correlation at all, but when I bought into the philosophy of a total life change, it made sense to me. So I invite everyone to connect with you. All of your social media platforms are out there. You gave the email address again, is Kara at inspired to speak.
Number 2
with the number 2. Make sure we put that out there. 2 wonderful books today. Kara, thank you so much for being on the show today. There was a lot that was going on, and certainly you are a master of the push forward. There was a lot going on in your environment, but you gave such wonderful content today to all of the listeners about how to bounce back, how to be fully energized, to self-generate, right? To generate from the inside out. About self-development, feeding the mind, the body, and the spirit, how to not take losses personally, be a process, be a conduit, let it be a learning process, move on to the next thing. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. There is so much more in this that we really need to dig into. And I'm probably going to have you back because I want to talk to you about total life changes and how those products really do help us to now align. Now that we have the mindset, the physical, bringing the body together and aligning that body really is total life changes. It is the tool that I personally use, and I know many people around the world use, to align our bodies with our mindset. Who'd have thunk it? Aligning your body with your mindset. That's all about total life changes. So that's the cliffhanger for the next conversation. Dun, dun, dun. That's the cliffhanger for the next conversation. You're not just a scientist. You're not just a mother. You're not just a wife. You're not just a global speaker. I'm going to tell you, you're a queen and a wonderful human being. I'm so glad to have you today. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Thank all of you for listening today who are out there. This has been Power Talk with Ms. Mogul. You have been listening to Dr. Kara Scott Dentley. She has been my honored guest today. Thank you all so much for listening in. Dr. Dentley, thank you. We'll have all of your information in the write-up on the show so that people can contact you there. And thank all of you for tuning in today. This is Charity Smith, Miss Mogul. If you'd like to connect with me, you can text MOGULU to 26786. That's MOGULU to 26786. We have a mindset camp coming up. I'm sure I'll have Dr. Dentley sharing some nuggets in that as well. If you'd like to learn more about real estate development, contact me at MOGULU, or you can go to mommy'screatingeconomies.com. And if you are a leader, this is a plug. If you are a leader and you would like to align your body and your spirit together, I cannot hail more the products of TLC. I work with the organization. I can speak highly because I am a product of the product. Believe me, these products work. So if you'd like more information about that, contact me there as well. I'll be happy to connect you with the products. Dr. Dentley, we've run out of time. We have not run out of content. We have not run out of content. So the cliffhanger is now, how do we align our success paradigm to manifest in our bodies? That will be show number 2.
Yes.
That'll be show number 2. Thank you again for joining me. My best to you, Dr. James Dentley, and your family, and my best to all of you for listening. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.